Have you ever eaten a snake? Have you ever been to Japan? Have you ever studied the present perfect? Today, we're going to be learning about present perfect. Let's first take a look at the form of the present perfect. To form the present perfect, we use a subject plus a helper verb, have or has, plus the past participle. We use have with I, we, you, and they. And we use has with he, she, and it. Do you still remember the verb forms in English? The past participle is the third verb form, and that's why it is called verb 3. For example, go, went, gone. Gone is the past participle. Take, took, taken. Taken is the past participle. Write, wrote, written. Written is the past participle. The majority of English verbs are regular verbs. For example, in the verb finish. Finish, finished, finished. Stop, stopped, stopped. Wait, waited, waited. As for irregular verbs, sometimes the second and the third verb are different. For example, see, saw, sing. Sometimes the second and the third verb form are the same. For example, in the verb make, make, made, made. Sometimes all three forms are the same. For example, with the verb put, 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 put. There's no easy way or special technique to memorize or to remember the forms of all these verbs. You really have to memorize them to remember them. Let's see an example. I have studied since 6 a.m. Okay, what is the subject here? I. What is the main action verb in the sentence? That's right, studied. Any helper verb? Have. Let's look at our next example. He has played the violin for 6 years. In this sentence, what is the subject? That's right, he. What is the main action verb? Marvelous, play. Any helper verb? Yes, has. But why is it has in this sentence? Terrific. Because with he, she, it, we use has as the helper verb, not have. So he has played the violin for 6 years. Now we are going to focus on those two adverbs that you can use with present perfect tense. There are since and for. Both of these words explain how long something has been happening for. It's a duration of time. It is important to remember that since can only be used with the perfect tenses. But the word for can be used in other tenses as well, when you want to give more information about the time. You need to use since with a specific moment in the past or a specific point in time. For example, I have worked here since noon. Since Wednesday. Since April. Since 2010. Since May 2011. Since yesterday. Since last week. Now let's go back to our timeline. It is now, and this is the moment when the action happened or started to happen. This point is 6 a.m. So we can say we've been doing the action since 6 a.m. So let's add since to the present perfect structure. I have studied English since 2007. I have used a computer since 2007. It is very important to remember that since can only be used with the perfect tenses. Here we see some examples of since is followed by a subject and a verb. We have been friends since I was 15. Notice in the example, the present perfect is used in the man clause, while the simple past is used in the since clause. Another example is Jim has played many sports since he tried soccer. So it is important to remember that since can be followed by a subject and a verb, but the verb should be simple past in the since clause. Another adverb that you can use with present perfect tense is for. For is followed by a period of time, a length of time, such as I have worked here for 50 minutes, for 5 hours, for 10 days, for about 6 weeks, for almost 2 months, for many years, for a long time. Here, notice that if the nouns ends in s, like minutes, hours, days, weeks, months. Use for to express the duration of time. Now let's go back to our timeline. It is now 6 o'clock. And this is the moment when the action happened or started to happen. So we can say, I have worked here for 5 hours. That means I have been doing the action for 5 hours. Now let's do some exercises. Mary has been playing the piano since... That's right, she was 6. Mary has been playing the piano for... Good job, 3 hours. Alexandra has studied English since he started school. Alexandra has studied English for... Terrific, 15 years. My uncle has driven a taxi since 1982. Well done. My uncle has driven a taxi. Super, for 30 years. If you want to make a negative, we just take not and we add not into the sentence and it becomes I have not gone home yet, or Fatima has not gone home. You can also put not and have together to make a contraction. So have not becomes haven't. Has not becomes hasn't. Let's look at more examples. Have you read the report? Has Marcy gone home? Here, we move the helper verb have or has to the front of the sentence to make a question. If you want to know more information, if you want to know how long something has been happening for, you can add how long. So the question becomes, how long have you worked there? When talking about your whole life, we like to add the word ever. Have you ever been to Paris? To answer this, you can answer with yes or no. If you answer with no, you can say, no, I have never been to Paris. When you're saying never, you mean that in your whole life, you have never done this. If you answer with yes, you can say yes plus the subject, plus the helper verb, plus the main verb. So it becomes, yes, I have been to Paris. Let's look at more examples. Has Kelly finished her homework? To give a short answer, you can answer with yes or no. If you answer with yes, you can say yes plus the subject plus the helper verb. So the answer becomes yes, she has. She did it after school. But if you want to answer with no, you can say no plus the subject plus the helper verb plus not. So the answer becomes no, she hasn't. She didn't do it after school. Now let's practice by using present perfect. That's right. The answer is, have you ever touched a snake? To answer with no, you should say, no, I have never touched a snake. To form a question, you'll say, has Justin ever seen a shark? To give a short answer, you'll say, yes, he has. He saw one near Cape Town, South Africa. Good job, girls! Besides for and since, there are quite a few adverbs that you can use with the present perfect tense, like just and recently. Let's look at these examples. Micah has just gotten his first job. Leah has recently visited Singapore. Here in the timeline, it means the activity occurred before now or sometime in the past. But the exact time is not mentioned. Probably the speaker thinks it's not important, or the speaker doesn't know the exact time in the past. Sometimes the focus is on an action which has taken place once or many times before now. For example, Mary has painted portraits many times. Her students have painted portraits twice. So present perfect tense can be used to describe the same action which have occurred in the past at different times. More common time words that express this idea are like already. Let's take a look at the example sentence. Taylor has already taken his first steps. Or, Taylor has taken his first steps already. Already is used to answer questions and to emphasize, to show more clearly that an action has been completed. Or yet is used with things that we expect. let's look at some example sentences. Zoe hasn't walked by herself yet. So we use yet to show that something did not happen before now, but it might happen in the future.
Chapter 4. Present Perfect and Past Perfect. Exercise 2, page 82. Example. You will hear go, went, gone. You will write gone. 1.
Call, called, called.
2.
Speak, spoke, spoken.
3.
Do, did, done.
4.
Know, knew, known.
5.
Meet, met, met.
6.
Come, came, come.
7.
Eat, ate, eaten.
8.
Cut, cut, cut.
9.
Read, read, read.
10.
Be, was, were, been.
Exercise 12, page 88. Example. You will hear, I saw a two-headed frog once. Have you ever? You will write seen. Have you ever seen a two-headed frog? No. 1.
I saw a two-headed snake once. Have you ever?
2.
I flew in a small plane last year. Have you ever?
3.
I rode in a limousine once. Have you ever?
4.
I did volunteer work last month. Have you ever?
5.
I accidentally tore my shirt yesterday. Have you ever?
6.
I had a scary experience on an airplane last year. Have you ever?
7.
I fell out of a boat last week. Have you ever?
8.
I felt very, very embarrassed once, and my face got hot. Have you ever?
9.
I spoke to a famous person yesterday. Have you ever?
10.
I wanted to be famous once. Have you ever?
Exercise 20, page 93. A job interview. Mika is a nurse. She is interviewing for a job with the manager of a hospital emergency room. He is looking at her resume and asking her some general questions.
It looks like you've done a lot of things since you became a nurse.
Yes, I've worked for a medical clinic. I've worked in a prison. I've worked in several area hospitals. And I've done volunteer work at a community health center for low-income patients.
Very good. But let me ask you, why have you changed jobs so often?
Well, I like having new challenges and different experiences.
Why have you applied for this job?
Well, I'm looking for something more fast-paced, and I've been interested in working in an ER for a long time. I've heard that this hospital provides great training for its staff, and it offers excellent patient care.
Thank you for coming in. I'll call you next week with our decision.
It was good to meet you. Thank you for your time.